Good evening, everybody. This is Michelle Quarton, and I'm part of the Texas Bluebonnet Arts and Crafts Group. And tonight we are celebrating our spotlight interview. And it's also Texas Bluebonnet Arts and Craft Group has created the Women in Arts panel and series. And our artist tonight, Beth Ritter Perry, has been part of that. And I'm going to go on. Now tonight, people who are coming in will be muted. We will unmute you at the end with questions and answers if you want to join us. I'd like to say welcome again to the Spotlight Virtual Art Exhibit and Art Talk. And tonight we have the pleasure of introducing artist Beth Ritter Perry. Beth's works capture the essence and vibrant of colorful free spirit that dwells within all of us. And that is a direct quote. Beth has flourished as a painter, a jewelry designer, an art quilter, a doll maker, a glass artist, a ceramicist, a businesswoman, and an educator in the visual arts. The first thing people say about Beth's artwork, that it is, and I quote, real, and it generates an acceptance that is awesome vehicle for them to express their own take of the world. And those are her quotes. As an art educator and an MFA professor in the visual arts, Beth strives to enjoy witnessing the spark of creativity and discovery while serving as a mentor source for her students. As a businesswoman in the art, Beth is an owner of Capriccio Studios, whose motto is, "Welcome to the rich and textured life." Beth has also been instrumental in developing the Bluebonnet Arts and Crafts Group Women in Art series. Beth is one of our resident artists in the series. Welcome, Beth, to the Spotlight Virtual Exhibit and Art Talk.
Thank you so much, Michelle and Susan. I'm just so honored and thrilled to be able to do this. This is really exciting.
Well, we're glad to have you. Let's talk about Beth the person and Beth the artist. Can you kind of just, in a quick review, tell us about yourself and how you got started and where you are today?
Okay, well, basically, I'm a native of Nashville, Tennessee. I've been drawing, I think, since my mother trusted me to hold a pencil and not make marks all over the wall. I've always been surrounded by creativity, whether it was in the form of sewing or cooking or that type of thing. Funny little story I'll share with you in terms of my background. My dad was a space science educator for NASA, one of the first African Americans selected for one of those positions. This was like right after Martin Luther King was assassinated, and it was a really big thing. But prior to that, both he and my mother attended Tennessee State University. My grandmother was also a professor at Tennessee State University. And my mom had received back in the day when they had home economics in the high schools. I remember that the fun times. She received a full scholarship to Tennessee State to go take home to get her degree in home ec. She ultimately did it in home ec and education, but she wound up having to take classes with my grandmother, who's to be become the late woman who was to become my grandmother at Tennessee State. And my aunt, a cousin of mine told me this story recently, and it was the funniest thing because I never imagined it. I think my mom and dad kind of knew each other as college students. They weren't dating or anything. And at the time, my mother was engaged to be married to someone else. Oh. And, she went to my granny's class, and she and Granny were, even before Granny became Granny, they were tight. And Granny took a look at Mama's hand and saw that the ring was missing. And she immediately told my dad he better jump in for the kill because that wasn't going to last long. So that's kind of like that's part of how I got my upstart. I also discovered that my mother was one of the not freedom riders, but she was one of the, since it was in Nashville, she sat in at the lunch counters. She participated in sit-ins, and I'm thinking she probably knew John Lewis, because it was, it was a pretty small group. So it's funny, every time I'm online or whatever, and I'm doing research or looking at images from that, period in time and in Nashville, I'm always looking for pictures of my mom at the counter. And, part of the story behind that was her parents were tenant farmers. And it caused a big controversy. It caused a big stir at the house because my grandfather he was very concerned about her safety and all of that. But I tell you all of this to say my mom was a real, oh gosh, she was a lively something from what I understand. And I just think it's so amazing that even when she passed when I was 13.
Mm.
And she never shared any of that with me. Here I am, as old as I am now, and I'm just finding out. I always knew that she was out there and a very creative, free spirited type, but I just didn't know to what degree. So that's my background. I think a lot of my interest in non-Western art forms and things of that nature kind of springboarded from the time that we lived in the suburbs of Washington, D.C. And it was the first time I was really exposed to people of different parts of the world, because prior to that, I'd been raised in Louisville, Kentucky. And there wasn't a whole lot of diversity there, but Washington, D.C. was like, wow, just totally blew me away. So as time progressed, that was always a creative type, always painting and drawing and coloring and, making stuff. And that was something that was always encouraged and nurtured in me. And I took art classes throughout high school, art classes throughout college, and received my BS in art and marketing from Austin Peay State University in Clarksville, Tennessee, and got my MFA in graphics from the University of Wisconsin-Madison. Since then, I've been a practicing artist and art educator. And it's funny because I never imagined myself in the classroom, never, and from the very beginning, even though I come from a long line of educators. And when I was in graduate school, though, that's just the direction that they pushed us in. And well, I won't say push, they just kind of steered us in that direction. It was an excellent direction to get steered into. I started off teaching in higher ed, and started off in Frostburg, Maryland. And I'd always wanted to move to California, always wanted to go to the West Coast, and to find my fortune there as an artist and creative person. So when I was, I guess, third year, I was at Frostburg State University in Frostburg, Maryland. I decided I'm going to take a year's leave, go out there, see what's shaking. And if I like it, that's where I'm going, because I've always been kind of an adventurous type. And I went and wound up staying for about 7 years or so. It was during that time that my artistic vision really blossomed and bloomed. California truly is the cutting edge, provides cutting edge for a lot of my art. And it was out there after I moved. I spent a year in LA and decided it wasn't quite my cup of tea. So I had family in San Diego that said, oh, why don't you come down, hang out with us a while and, get your bearings and see what's up. And things just started to fall into place beautifully there. And shortly after moving to San Diego, I met who would become, a mentor for me, a woman by the name of Pamela Armas. Her business is Treasures of the Gypsy. And I was just totally intrigued by, how she was a single woman world traveler. And she had been did trade with India and Africa, had, a lot of contacts and things there. And her home and her studio was just so inspiring to me, because she had, it's just, how would you describe it? It's not really like a museum as such, but just crammed with all kinds of really interesting and brilliantly colored and textured, sparkling art and artifacts. It's like a magpie's heaven, So that's kind of like where I really got a lot of my inspiration initially.
Okay. Well, I'm going to move on, Beth, and we're going to look at this first grouping of paintings, which is really exquisite. And they're women, and they're women of all kinds of backgrounds and diversity. You wanted to kind of talk about their technique and what you were trying to achieve in your pictures?
Well, actually, this slide here shows a progression of how I started and how my work has developed over the years. I've always considered myself to be a draftswoman. I love to draw. I love to draw the human figure.
Hmm.
And the image in the upper right-hand corner, excuse me, the upper left-hand corner of the woman in the Harley shirt, that's all of these are self-portraits to some degree or another.
Oh.
Because again, I always kind of joked, particularly when I was in graduate school, all of my images were self-portraits. And one of my friends used to tease me so bad. It's like, you just vain yourself. No, I'm broke. I'm a broke college student. I can't afford somebody to
Yeah.
pose for me. And so the one in the Harley shirt, which is entitled Harley shirt, I drew when I was in undergrad, probably a junior or a senior in college.
Oh.
And what I would do is, for that particular one, I think this was probably, it might have been before I purchased my camera. I just stood in the mirror and drew myself. And it is, that one's Prismacolor, colored pencil.
Right.
And just had a really good time with that. And then from there, chronologically, the one directly underneath it, it's a pastel painting. I did that as a graduate student. I was really starting to develop my artistic voice and vision, and it was there that I discovered Frida Kahlo and Frida Kahlo, Diego Rivera, of course, and all of the Surrealist masters. My absolute favorite is Rene Magritte. And also I was really kind of getting into exploring linear perspective and foreshortening and all of those types of interesting perspectives in drawing. So this particular image here, I had positioned a mirror up above my easel and drew the self-portrait directly from the mirror.
Wow.
And then the one up at the top on the right, that's from a photograph. And I really wanted to show how my ability in developing and mastery of graphite drawing, and in terms of the layering and
Wow.
yeah, it was a fun one to do.
Okay.
And the ones down at the bottom are based on a couple of different themes. The one in the center of the woman holding the cracked pot, she's called The Woman at the Well at the Gate of Grace. And I'm Christian, and a lot of my imagery is based upon redemption, forgiveness, not necessarily in a really, overt, grab you by the throat kind of way, but I want people to feel inspired and empowered by the images. And if you're familiar with the story of the woman at the well, it's, just where the woman just kind of came plead with Jesus about who she was and what she's about. And Jesus was like, yeah, thank you for being honest. Now, let me tell you who I am. And, which is what I thought was pretty cool. So
it's a great story. It really is.
I like to take these stories and kind of develop the character a little bit as to what she might be like, and just in her everyday life. And here she is at the grates, at the gate, and she's about to leave, new beginning, new life. And the pot that she's holding, you can still see the crack in it, but there's a life force that's glowing from within, and her life force is glowing from within too.
Yeah. Okay. And the last painting on the bottom right?
The last one at the bottom, I was just kind of playing around with and experimenting with the colored pencils with this one. You might be able to see some influence of the pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood in the way that, the pose, the positioning of the woman's head and the fullness of the lips. And I wanted to kind of give it a different spin with the dreadlocks and the cowrie shells attached to it. Always doing those little crazy little cross-cultural things.
Well, it blends the mysticism, and it's interesting. Yeah.
Well, the little symbol that she's wearing as a headband, it's the Jiname, which is one of the Ajinkra symbols from Ghana. And it represents fear none but God, or in the beginning there was none but God. So I guess, you know, with the gesture of her hand over her heart and her eyes are closed, she's kind of in a prayerful, meditative kind of stance.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I love the expression on her face. It's very peaceful.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna move on. Oops. Picture. Okay, now we in this series, it's very graphic, and I think that probably plays on your professional education in graphics.
There you go.
If I'm getting that right. And again, it's women and women doing joyful things and perspective things. So talk a little bit about your graphics here.
All of these are part of a body of work that I developed as a graduate student at UW-Madison. As an undergrad at Austin P, I always wanted to take silkscreen, but it was always offered at some weird time in the evening when I had to be at work. So when I got to grad school and I had the opportunity to do nothing but silkscreen, I was in hog heaven. I just, I was going nuts. So while in graduate school, I did a lot of work in graphic design. I majored in graphic design, a lot of photographic work where my influences were artists or photographers like, well, Anthony Armstrong Jones stuck out a lot to me. Irving Penn, people like that did the very elegant Vogue magazine product photography. And since I was too broke to to get a model, I would set up my camera and tripod, and this was before the automatic timers. So I had one of those little handheld squeezer things, and I had to, you know, it was fun. So that's pretty much where the vast majority of these got their origin. And I kind of like took on a persona in these images or depicted personas, and I wrote stories, short stories to accompany a lot of these images. The first one, the upper left, is called La Joie de Vivre. And, and I still have a few of these left. It's so funny, where I'm just really interested in expressing, you know, a joy and a carefree kind of attitude, and in all of them, something that's what's the word that I'm looking for? It's kind of a everyday slice of life type of thing with some of them, particularly the one in the middle. I call that one the 411, where the woman's sitting there, you know, fresh out of the shower, you know, in the robe and polishing her nails. She's on a phone, the rotary phone, and I still have the rotary phone here. It's kind of funny. And she's chatting it up with a friend. The other one to the right, it's called Message in a Bottle. And it was one of the first ones that I did where I was really playing around with technique. Because you can't really see it in this slide, but I utilized airbrush in the resist technique that I used directly on the screen. And there's, because of that, that's how I was able to get that kind of gradation of texture as it goes from front to the back on the cracked lake bed. And the one down at the bottom on the left is called Just Another Mirage. And between that one and the one to the right, and I wish the color was a little bit brighter on the one to the right, with Flamingo Low. It's supposed to be Flamingo Lounge. The Flamingo Lounge was an imaginary club, kind of like where what Jose is going to be. Jose is going to be going this weekend, where, you know, young people hanging out, having a really good time, and then lo and behold, you know, the place is going to get torn down, and you know, but pleasant memories from the Flamingo Lounge.
I love the colors in the top graphics. They're just great. They really are.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to the next one. Is this a graphic again that you're doing?
All of those are silk screens.
Wow.
All of those are silk screens. And in the 80s, when I first learned silk screen, it was with the oil-based medium. And
okay.
the oil base was pretty volatile back then.
Yeah.
It's a lot kinder and gentler now.
Okay.
But I wanted to kind of break away from that a little bit. Lo and behold, I can't remember if it was Liquitex or what brand started making a water-based medium, which was absolutely horrible.
Mhm.
So I kind of like had to grit my teeth and go back to the oil base. I bring that up because with the water-based media, at the time you could only, and it's changed now. I've done lots of silkscreen since then. The stuff now, it's more like an acrylic paint, or I might have used an acrylic paint. But back then its success was very dependent upon the amount of humidity in the air.
Wow.
And in Wisconsin in the wintertime and all that snow, it wasn't working.
No.
And I was very limited in terms of the number of colors that I could use, the layering, and being able to maintain any kind of registration. You just couldn't do it.
Wow.
So, and I bring all of that up because some of these silk screens, most of my silk screens had at least 30 colors.
I was going to say that's, to me, that's very impressive. I have to say, wow.
And the one, thank you. And the one in the lower right-hand corner, 3 a.m. with you on the line, that's what it's called. That one has over 100.
Wow.
And it was a very short run. I still have a few of these left. And they were so delicate by the time I was done. The ink itself is probably about 1/16 of an inch thick.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Wow. How long does it take you to do that if you have over 100 colors that you're putting on your screens and building
Well,
that?
usually I think that one probably took me 2 weeks. And I was able to do it in 2 weeks because, I was taking nothing but art classes and I virtually lived in the studio. I mean, I did all-nighters right and left. We all did all-nighters. So, I mean, it was fun. It was fun. So,
okay.
yeah.
Well, they're exquisite. I love the top one. I just, it has so
that
much
one there was kind of, it's called Isolation.
Yeah.
And that one is enormous. And I think I've got 2 of those left.
Wow. Wow.
That one is like, it's over 120 some inches by like 36.
Wow, that is big. I just love the way you got the color and the depth on the young man's face or young woman's face, I'm not sure, and the scarf. I mean, you show his.
It's a her. It's a self-portrait. It's a self-portrait.
Okay. Well,
and actually, I remember I just purchased a jar of some metallic ink that I couldn't wait to play around with. So actually the colors are a whole lot brighter than what they're depicted here. And actually they're not a whole lot of colors in that one. Because I knew that I would have to, roll it up to store it. And that the paint gets brittle after a while.
Okay. Well, you ready to move on?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. These are very graphic. And I would like you to kind of tell us the techniques you used with
these are silkscreen also.
Okay.
These are also silkscreen. And part of my rationale for just doing them as black and white, I wanted to be able to go back into them and paint them individually with gouache. Which is a opaque watercolor.
Right.
And I did them as a short run. I did them one summer, and it's so funny. I remember these were done the summer prior to when my son was born. So I knew I had to get a lot of work done, a lot of work in before that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, they're exquisite.
And with these, you can really see how I'm influenced by Indian Mehendi and dreadlocks. Everything has dreadlocks during this time. And, Maharanis and beautiful women and handsome men and different African symbols, like, the Jinyame, there it is again, different Azinkra symbols. I think God symbols are the very important part of
Mhm.
Ghanaian culture,
Okay.
because they are representative of different, characteristics of aspects
Mhm.
of ways of being. Okay,
Mhm.
well, for us to for humanity to conduct themselves, that
Right.
kind of thing.
Yeah, the balance. In the far left-hand corner, the intricacy of the silk screening and the patterns, I don't know what to say. It just blows me away. How how long did it take you to do that?
Actually, all of these started off as drawings.
Okay.
They all started off as drawings.
Wow.
And I do a lot of drawings with
Mhm.
fine point pens,
Okay.
tombos.
Mhm.
I used to use repeatographs a lot back in the day. I
Uh-huh.
don't know if any of y'all are familiar with
Yep.
repeatographs.
You know what a pitograph is,
Good
yeah.
old repeatograph. And now my thing is pilot pens, tombos, any of those.
Okay.
And very fine point, very detailed. And then it takes them to a graphic arts printer to enlarge the image and have a film, a
Uh-huh.
transparency made of it, and
Okay.
then you burn it onto the screen.
Okay. All right. I was gonna say, wow. How did
Oh yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
do that? Now, thank you for explaining that. Okay, we'll move on to the next set. This is a beautiful picture.
Thank you.
Um, is this you and your son?
Actually, no, this
Oh.
is kind of okay. So this one was one of the first that I did, one of my first paintings after I moved to San Diego.
Mhm.
And I just started teaching at a community college.
Mhm.
And I got this idea. I used to get a lot of ideas, and I still get a lot of ideas for work in dreams.
Mhm.
But back then it was like a gold mine. I had to, and I still do this, keep a journal by the bed at night.
Yeah.
Wake up in the middle of the night just drawing and sketching because
Yep.
things that just flow.
Mhm.
But I got the idea to do a series of paintings that were odd shaped. So this red that you see surrounding it, that's the wall.
Oh.
The odd shape of the painting itself, that's the painting.
Hmm.
So, and at the time, my woodworking skills weren't that fantastic. So I befriended a student who was a woodworker, and I explained to Russell what I wanted to do. And he built me a ton of frames, and I'm still
Oh,
nipping
wow.
off of those frames.
Wow.
So I stretched them and
Hmm.
didn't put a whole lot of, thought or whatever
Mhm.
behind. I just wanted the composition to fit within
Within the frame. Yeah.
within the frame, within the canvas. And this one's called Becoming.
Mm. Yeah.
And the idea was of a woman representative of, just maternity,
Mhm.
a loving maternal figure,
Mhm.
dreaming of the future for her young child, turned out to be a daughter. The baby depicted here in this image
Mhm.
is my niece when she was born
Okay.
20 some years ago. And yeah, that's what that one's about. And basically the image itself, all of the images in these series, in
Mhm.
this series, are kind of springboarding off of surrealism,
Oh, yeah.
an interest in
Very much so.
surrealism.
Yeah. Yeah.
And also, when you put them all together, they create a unified whole. It's
Yeah.
an odd shape, but
Mhm.
that's pretty much the way that our lives work out. They're shards, they're bits, they're pieces.
Yeah. Yeah. And you feed into them. Yeah.
Yeah, and once you put it all together, it
Mhm.
makes something.
It's a good something.
Good something, yeah.
Yeah. All right, we're going to move on to the next one.
Okay.
This is one of the pieces you're talking about with the odd shapes, because
Yes. This one is called Exodus, and I kind of springboarded off of the story of Moses and Zipporah in the Bible. And I could just imagine them, Moses, after having visited Mount Sinai, just kind of like totally blown away and trying to determine, well, what's next? What's going to happen next? And Zipporah is, kind of comforting him, and, they're talking and discussing, got the incense burning
Mhm.
off to the side in the bowl.
I love the frame. I love the way you painted it in that shape, because it just, your eye just gets pulled in, not so much to the people, but to what's behind it, to the towers. And then you just kind of look back. It's great.
Thank you.
You follow the lines. Okay, we're gonna go to the next one. All right, we're gonna talk about the portraits in this. Oh, I love the one on the far.
Red Sari is
Yeah, I
like
love the red
my
sari.
favorite,
That's great.
favorite.
Yes, I agree.
And
It's
this,
such a beautiful blending of Asian and African culture. It's just gorgeous.
and that's exactly what I was attempting to
Yeah,
do. I'm
you
still
did.
kind of, riffing off of my experience in California and what all I've been exposed to
Mhm.
through my mentor Pamela Armas. And
Mhm.
I love saris. I love
Yeah.
Indian clothing. A lot of the clothes in my closet are, South Asian.
Mhm.
There's a lot of furniture and things with South Asian influence in my home.
Mhm.
And I really wanted to kind of pay homage and tribute,
Mhm.
to that with the African and the Indian thing kind of playing
Mhm.
together.
Mhm.
And the one down at the bottom, I
Mhm.
call it Market Day.
Yeah.
And I did that soon after my son was born, because I was, trying to just getting a feel for this motherhood thing and how to,
Yeah.
you need to
Yeah.
go somewhere and schlepping him around and all of that. What would I do if I were in
Right.
Senegal or
We
somewhere
gotta go
needing
back.
to carry him
Oh, I
about?
didn't mean to. Let's see if I can go back.
Oh, no problem.
No. I'm gonna go back. I jumped. There we go. My finger hit the wrong button. All right. Okay, go ahead and explain. The one on the far right top is really exquisite. Is that kind of like a self-portrait that you're doing?
Actually, that one wasn't so much a self-portrait.
Okay.
The eyes have kind of an Asian feel to it, because I was
Yeah,
paying
you do.
paying a little homage to a friend of mine who is Black and Japanese,
Mm.
and she has the most incredible eyes, the
Oh,
most
yeah.
incredible, beautiful eyes. So that's kind of like where
Mhm.
part of that comes from. And of course, I had to throw the dreadlocks in there.
Yeah, her eyes really speak to you. It's the first thing I noticed looking at your painting. She just pulls you in. Okay, that's
Yeah,
good.
those are Marie's eyes. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
Marie
Mhm.
is Black and Japanese.
Okay.
And down at the bottom,
Mhm.
my husband named that one. He calls it my Creole cousin. And again, she's got dreadlocks with
Yeah.
and her eyes have kind of golden flecks,
Yeah.
and the dreads are
Yeah.
golden
Yeah.
flecks. And all that.
I like the way she looks at you, like, yeah, okay, lady.
He's like, yeah.
That's great. All right, we're gonna go on. Oh gosh, we're going back here. Okay, these are spectacular. This represents your surrealism and your cubism and all these wonderful things. Do you want to talk about it?
Cubism mostly.
Yeah.
You ever been in a phase where you really want to create, but don't have any idea just
Yep.
what direction you want to go into with it? And I
Yeah.
figured, what the heck, it's time to experiment.
Yeah.
And
Great.
I've always loved just screaming color,
Mhm.
bright screaming color.
Mhm.
And I've always liked cubism. And I thought, okay, the Cubist masters worked with colors that weren't nearly as
Mhm.
bright and vibrant as this.
Yeah.
How would it
Beautiful. I
look?
love- Yeah.
What all can I do with this?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's pretty much the direction that I went into. And some of the poses and
Mhm.
gestures,
Mhm.
particularly the one down the lower right-hand corner,
Mhm.
she reminds me so much of Jan Vermeer's girl with the pearl earring. I think it's Vermeer.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Just the pose and the gesture and kind of the way that she's looking, and she doesn't have a pearl earring, but just the gestures.
Yeah,
The
the way
poses
her
kind of
eyes, yeah, the way she's looking at the colors are amazing. I think they really bring the image to you. They're just a great choice. Now, is
And
this acrylic or oil or?
these are acrylics. These
Oh,
are
wow.
acrylics, and the colors are pretty true. The colors are true. They're
nice.
screaming. I love them.
Yeah, it's great. All right, we're gonna go forward if I do this right. Oh, no, we did it right. All right. Just Oh, I love this too. I love the reds in this.
And here
Great.
we have more where
Mhm.
I wanted to experiment more with
Yeah,
the deeper abstraction.
yeah.
The one on the left
Mhm.
um, refers to autumn, fall, this the
Oh,
leaf type shapes, and the
okay.
colors are a lot warmer
Mhm.
and a bit more subdued.
Mhm.
And the one to the right, I let my husband name it. He called it Romar's Big Fish. And Romar from Romar Bearden, and he had those steely
Yeah,
blue eyes,
yeah,
and that's kind of like what it reminded him
yeah,
of. And the eye is also kind of a fish shape. So he says
yeah.
that looks like
Yeah.
Romar's Big Fish. I'm like, okay, we can name it that. I like
A lot of interpretations on that.
that. Yeah.
Okay, let's do this one. Now, these are very interesting, Beth. Is this the beginning of your mixed media a little bit?
Again, a little bit more. These are some where I was just kind of trying to get a feel for broadening my horizons
Yeah.
because I've always worked figuratively.
Yeah.
And it's a real challenge to work
Mhm.
purely abstract,
Mhm.
but I also like to have
Mhm.
sometimes a type of literal message
Mhm. Mhm.
in the work.
Mhm.
Like the one in the middle, it says the best way to get through this life is to speak the truth.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the truth is so often obscured and hidden in everything
Mhm.
nowadays.
Yeah.
So
Mm.
in that particular one, it's kind of hidden, it's kind of obscured, but the truth
Mhm.
will always,
Mhm.
it'll always surface some way or another.
It does. It does. You
Yeah.
can't hide the truth. Now, are there different layers of paint on this? And what did you use, acrylic or oil or
These are all acrylic.
watercolor?
These
Okay.
are
Yeah.
acrylic and also mixed media in that the one in the upper left hand corner
Uh-huh.
has some um,
Oh, yeah.
iridescent cellophane.
Oh, cool.
Um, I've used iridescent cellophane. I've
Mhm.
used different types of leafing.
Okay.
I've used burlap that's
Mhm.
been
Mhm.
treated with gold leaf.
Mhm.
Um, all kinds of
Wow.
different things. If I think it's going to create an interesting surface texture,
Hmm.
um, I'll give it a go.
When you're using cellophane and textures, do you paint it and for it to adhere, or do you use a glue and then paint over it? How do you attach?
I use a matte medium.
Okay, a matte medium. All right, that's good.
Yep.
That's good. Okay, if I do this right, we're going to go on the next one. There, now we're getting into the quilts.
And the quilts. Yeah,
Yeah,
quilts. I've always loved
yeah,
quilts. I've loved
yeah,
quilts um,
yes,
since I was an undergrad and
mhm,
I worked at a Hancock's Fabrics to
yeah,
help put myself
yep.
through college rather. And
Mhm.
I still have some of that fabric. And then I've had that stuff for a long time.
Hang on to
As
it.
a Well,
It's
I
hard.
got the bright idea to start a double wedding ring quilt, which
Oh,
you're right. I think I've still got
yeah.
the pieces for
Wow.
it.
Wow.
And one of my favorite
Mhm.
bits of fabric for that quilt, I still have a good bit of it. So yeah, I'm holding on to it.
Yeah.
But nothing about any of the quilts that I make now, for the most part, has
Mhm.
anything traditional to do with it.
No,
Oh
it's
no, not at
okay.
all. And
I love it.
the one on the left um,
Mhm.
it was a wedding quilt
Mhm.
basically.
Oh, yeah.
When I
Yeah.
John and I decided to get married, I wanted a special quilt for the bed. And this is one with a lot of different Ajinkara symbols.
Yeah.
And the Ankh isn't one, and I've since kind of abandoned it. I don't really fool with the Ankh anymore.
Mhm.
But the rest of them are all
Mhm.
Ajinkara symbols. And the
Oh,
one off to the right is
mhm.
part of a series of small wall adornments that I did,
Oh,
small wall quilts
mhm.
that are kind of a play on um, different implements
Mhm.
used by African Americans to take care of our hair. Um, and this particular Afro comb, I mean,
Yeah.
if you grew up black in the 60s and 70s, you
Mhm.
recognize that immediately.
Yeah.
And a lot of folks use this
Yeah.
type of comb, but
Yeah.
it's like something that we
Yeah.
recognize immediately and chuckle.
I love the yellow fabric behind that. That's great fabric. Wow.
Thank you. Yeah.
All right. Let's see. I gotta go here. Oh, are these are more quilts, correct?
These are more quilts. These are more
Yeah.
quilts.
Wow.
I am,
Picture.
I'm still working on developing, writing a book
Mhm.
with the technique for the two quilts, the green one, the one with the green background, the one with the black background.
Uh-huh.
They look really intricate. They are applique quilts,
Yeah.
and they are
Wow.
inspired by Hawaiian quilting.
Mhm. Mhm.
I don't know if any of you all have ever been to the International Quilt Show that's held in Houston every year.
I have several times. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we used to go every
Yeah.
year, and
It's an amazing experience.
oh my God, yeah, it's like going to Mecca for the quilter.
Yeah.
Seriously, if you're into fabric or any of that, you gotta go.
Yeah.
You gotta
That was,
go.
yeah. You come in with suitcases and go out with trunks.
Well, yes, exactly, and shipping stuff home because it won't fit in
Yeah.
the car.
Yeah.
But do you understand?
Yeah, I do.
So yeah, that's basic. So these are basically
Mhm.
cutouts
Yeah.
that are derived from different ways of positioning and placing azekara symbols.
Mhm.
And then the design is traced onto a large piece of fabric and carefully cut out and hand applique.
Wow.
So these are pretty large. The black one is, I'm looking at it now, other side of the room. It's probably like 50 inches by 50 inches.
Ooh, that's a big
It's a
quilt.
pretty
Yeah.
good size.
Yeah, it is.
And the one with the green back, it's
Mhm.
probably 30 by 30.
Wow. 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 I noticed that you repeat the picture that you had in the very beginning of the woman with the jar and into that
Yeah.
quilt. Yeah, that's very interesting. Now, did you put a picture in there, or you didn't quilt all those pieces in, did you?
And here's the deal with that.
Yeah.
And I use this technique a lot in my work.
Uh-huh.
I take my original artwork,
Yeah.
first going from a photograph,
Yeah.
and print it onto
Mhm.
fabric.
Okay. All right.
And then that way I can
Yeah.
integrate it into, I can make it into a mixed media,
Okay.
integrate it
Gotcha.
into, yeah.
It's very,
So
very
that's how I
good.
do with that.
Okay.
And
Go ahead.
on the piece, the two pieces above that are part of a series that are kind of based upon Loteria cards, you know, the Mexican bingo cards.
Yeah.
But I was kind of springboarding off into some surrealism too, with Destiny in particular.
Yeah.
Destinies, and these are machine embroidered,
Mhm.
a technique that I started doing back in the 90s.
Wow.
I called it thread painting, and it's
Yes.
basically the use of Gutermann thread.
Yep.
And yeah, it's a
Okay.
lot.
Yeah, it is. All right, we're going to move on. Here we go. Now we're getting into the quilt and the mixed media and all the wonderful things you do. So would you like to talk about them?
Okay, so these two, I used to make a lot of dolls. I think I'm going to get back into it because I'm kind of starting to miss it. But this little doll here, this little type of doll, I call them femmies because they you know, we're all about feminine energy and positive good stuff, and original design doll. And the faces were all originally sculpted and cast either from paper clay or Fimo. And I have a lot of little trinkets and beads and this and that I would embellish them with. And the dolls kind of springboarded, the way that the surface treatment for the dolls kind of springboarded into different ways that I play around with little quilts. And this is one of those mini quilts that I do when I'm kind of in between projects or don't have any ideas for any major things, but I really need to keep my hands busy. And excuse me. And this one here is like 11 inches by 14 inches.
Oh, wow.
So it's relatively small.
Yeah.
And with this technique, I just take lots of scraps of fabric.
Yeah.
That is a quilter, you got tons of scraps of fabric. And attach them to a backing. And the real simple stitching that I use is called burro. And it's something that you see a lot of it on Pinterest now. It's
Mhm.
basically a Japanese utility quilting technique.
Hmm.
I could have done something like sashiko, but that's a little too exacting for what I
Mhm.
wanted to do with this.
Mhm.
And the same technique for the woman's face. She is from a stamp from Cameroon,
Mm.
and I enlarged it and printed it out, ironed it onto a white piece of linen, and
Mm.
applicator
Wow, that's so
onto
cool.
the surface.
Huh.
And there's a lot of, you probably see a lot of uh, embroidery in the background with
Mhm.
shisha mirrors. And the one next to her ear
Mhm.
is a bit of mother of pearl
Huh. Wow. Really great.
and mother. Thank you.
Yeah, in some ways, you've taken the tradition of the crazy quilt and done a contemporary quilt. Contemporary crazy quilt.
That's it. That's it
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay, let's move on. Ah, the dolls. Now you're
More
going
dolls.
to have fun with this.
More dolls. Well, the one that I just showed you,
Oh,
she's depicted there with lots of her sisters in a bowl.
oh my gosh, look at that.
There
Wow.
were tons of them. Yeah. For a
Wow.
stretch, I started doing these dolls when I was in California.
Mhm.
And I think the last batch that I did was probably 2007, 2008.
Mhm.
And there were three different body forms. There was one, there was a
Mhm.
cocoon,
Mhm.
there was a hand
Mhm.
shape,
Mhm.
and then there was one of the female form.
Okay.
And it's really funny because I had people like seriously collecting them for
Ah,
for a
yeah,
while, which was
yeah.
great. And they'd approach me at shows, well, what do I do with this? I'm like,
Mhm.
well, there's a attachment on the back. So if you want to hang her on your wall, you can.
Ah,
If you want to set them up in a chair, you can. And people just loved them, and
beautiful. They're
they're a lot of
absolutely
fun.
beautiful.
But
Absolutely.
the doll that I think I'm most fond of is Malik, and
Mhm.
he's the one that's off to your right.
Yes.
And he looks like he would be life size. And matter of fact, I took this picture
Mhm.
in my friend Pamela Armas's backyard.
Mhm.
And he was the first doll I ever sold, I believe. One of my coworkers at Southwestern College in San
Mhm.
Diego, Chula Vista, saw him and just went
Yeah.
nuts.
Yeah.
But funny story about him, I had just started making dolls and
Mhm.
sculpting the faces.
Yeah.
And I was only making female dolls at the time
Mhm.
for the most part.
Mhm.
And I got the idea for him, and I was,
Mhm.
drove into work at Southwestern that day with the idea of, okay, when I get off from work at noon, I'm going to come right home and I'm
Mhm.
going to get started on this doll, and I'm going to cast cast the eyes, going to
Yeah.
get her all set. I knew it was going to be a female. Knew it was going to be a female doll. Well, I worked and worked and worked and worked at this.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know if any of you, if you've worked with Fimo before, but you can work with Fimo to a point where it
No,
just
I've
goes
never.
limp. It will do nothing.
Wow. Wow.
And I worked it to the point where, when I was trying to do the face, it just wasn't happening.
Mm.
And I think I prayed over it a bit. And something just said, just let it be what it's going to be.
Yeah.
And I sculpted it, and it was my first male doll. And he's like, awesome.
He is awesome.
Awesome. I love it.
I can't tell you how many people have looked at this picture and emailed me and said, "Is that a real person?" Because it looks so real. I mean, you did such a realistic version of this person, this doll, and
I
the
mean,
way
the
he
pose,
stands there. Yeah, I mean, it's like he's
thank you.
walking.
That's why you just have to
That's
stop doing things in your own power and just let
yeah,
it go and let it flow.
that's right.
That was definitely a lesson in that.
Yeah, it's a gorgeous doll. All right,
Thank
we're
you.
going to move on. And I like Bitty Bitty Bum Bum.
Bitty Bitty Bum Bum. She was, I've got Bitty Bitty Bum Bum, and I also have Azúcar
Okay.
for Celia Cruz.
Okay.
And they are wall-sized dolls. They're about 36 inches long.
Wow.
And they are attached to the wall. Both of
Uh-huh.
these are actually, they're attached to the wall.
Wow. Just great. The bitty bitty boom, but it just makes me laugh.
Yeah, see, and it's the funny thing about that is that I didn't want to try to sculpt the face because
Yeah,
I really wanted to be able to do Selena justice.
yeah. It's
And
good.
my husband and I were talking about it, and he was like,
Mhm.
it'd be kind of cool if you just had a sign just to represent
Yeah,
who she is and what
yeah,
she's
we
about.
did a
I'm like,
great
I like
job.
that.
Yeah. Now the doll next to it, what did you say that it represents? I didn't hear that.
That one I was playing around with
Mhm.
some trinkets and fabrics and things that I'd gotten
Okay.
from the quilt show. And the face is an original sculpted face. I think the foundation is paper clay,
Mm.
and the eyes are glass eyes.
Oh, wow.
And I believe I have a gauzy type fabric on top of the paper clay. And
Okay.
that's how I was able to get those really nice gradations in the tone
Yeah.
and the skin.
Wow. It's beautifully done. Okay, we're going to go on to the next one. And would you like to talk about it?
More dolls.
Yeah.
The one to the right, the one to the left rather, she's more of a totem. And I
Oh,
was unable to find a picture of her so you could see the whole thing.
yeah.
But she's entire, I called her Sylphie because she's a real diva.
Mm.
And she's on a pedestal,
Mhm.
and she's about 4.5, 5 feet tall.
Mhm.
And her hands are outstretched in
Oh, wow.
this gesture.
Huh.
And the one to the right, Zaza La Gitana, Zaza the Gypsy.
Mhm.
She was one that I created for the Treasures of the Gypsy display. My friend Pamela also does the
Uh-huh.
quilt show every year.
Mhm.
And she has an incredible doll collection.
Mhm.
She just turned 78 the other day.
Mhm.
And she's been collecting dolls since she was like 4 years old.
Wow.
So she could very easily have 7 or 8 thousand dolls now.
Oh my.
And she's a doll fanatic, yeah.
Yeah.
And she does this big doll show every year at the quilt
Wow.
show.
Wow.
And this is in it.
Beautifully crafted. My goodness. Okay, we're gonna go on, and this shows the other facet of your artistry, your jewelry making. So would
Oh,
you
the
like to
jewelry.
talk about it? Yeah.
A lot. It's funny how some people know me for the jewelry, some people know me for the quilt, some know me for the dolls, some know me for the ceramics. It's funny.
Yeah.
These are some of my earlier pieces that I did.
Mhm.
The ones off to the left, some of the earlier pieces that I did in California.
Mhm.
I don't know if you're familiar with Ornament Magazine, and I'm not even sure if it's even in publication anymore,
Mhm.
but it was based in San Diego County, where there's a lot of interest at that time
Mhm.
in art and artifacts of non-Western cultures.
Mhm.
And this was kind of like my introduction to, you know, getting into these types of artifacts and creating wearable art from them.
Hmm. Is that jade or turpoline on the right? It's really beautiful.
On the right, that's turquoise and pearls.
Okay, good. It's hard to tell. Okay.
Turquoise, pearls, and Balinese silver spacers.
Wow.
This is a gorgeous piece. It's
Yes.
huge and chunky.
Oh.
And the lady that purchased it reminds me so much of Iris Apfel in terms of her personality and affectation, the way she carries herself. She's just very, very bold.
Wow.
And it's a perfect piece for her.
Okay, we're going to move on to some other pieces. These are more delicate, but they're absolutely lovely.
Thank you. These are, a lot of my jewelry is very influenced by South Asian bridal jewelry. I love South Asian bridal jewelry. And it's so funny. I've gradually built up, and I'm still building my little stash of beads and treats and trinkets to incorporate 22 karat gold and 18 and all of that, mostly 22. And the one up at the top left is exemplary of that.
Yeah.
The remaining 3 rings are handmade twisted wrapped wire rings.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's every so often I have to jump off on a tangent and make some rings. And
They're
this
gorgeous
is
thangens.
thank you.
Yeah, they really are. I love the ring in the top right. It's just so elegant. It really is with the
Not
and the
aquamarine.
amethyst and then your
And
purple.
yeah, amethyst and pearls, and then the one directly under that,
Yeah.
pearls and rubies
Oh,
and gold wash silver,
Yeah.
gold vermeil, and no, and that labradorite, gorgeous. I love labradorite, labradorite and pearls.
I love the blue. I mean, I've not really seen a blue like that. It's gorgeous. Okay.
Yep.
Nope, I was just gonna say, now, is this your mixed media?
These are more those pieces that I do when I'm kind of in between ideas.
Okay. All right.
Surrealistic self-portraits, I call them.
Okay.
And I do a lot of these with my students too, particularly in the very beginning of the school year. And if I'm dealing with kids who are real,
Yeah.
iffy and apprehensive, and I can't do this, and why did my counselor put me in here, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, sit down, look at this, and I'll show them some of these, and they're like, oh, these are kind of cool. I'm like, I'll show you how to do it.
Yeah.
And basically they're dealing with these mysterious spaces and mindsets and experiences, and just to me they have a very calming, kind of peaceful energy to them.
They do. Now, are these silk screen photographs and silk screens, or
no? These are all from fashion magazines with images that I've
Okay. Wow, just gorgeous. Well, Beth, this has been an amazing montage of your work and all the different aspects of your creativity. And
thank you.
I'm kind of speechless, to be honest with you. It's really amazing. I'm going to stop the share, and then we'll get into saying hello to the people who have come in, and they may want to ask you questions. So Susan can open them up.
I'm unmuting.
Okay.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
This is Linda Shotwell. She is the creator, I think, of North Texas Creativity. Some of you know about it.
Hi, Linda.
Hi, Beth.
Yeah, you probably know Linda. Linda is an amazing person in what she's organizing and an amazing photographer. So I'm trying to get her to come in on the spotlight.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And Beth, I apologize for being late. I came in a few minutes late. I got my time mixed up, but I have, been looking at your work a lot recently on Facebook, and I just love it.
Thank you.
And I was so excited to meet you today. And this is a lot of fun to me. So it's great to put your work with your face and get to know you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thanks for being here. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Dulcie says hi, but her microphone isn't working.
Hey, Dulce.
Hey, we love you. And Dulcie's also been a huge supporter of the Spotlights, as well as the Women in Art series, which is pretty amazing. And our leader here, Jose.
I don't know about leader.
You were.
I tell you what. Why is it that every time I'm the only man?
I tried to expand that. I mean, they can't compete with you. What can I say?
I'll say that's because you're cool. That's because you're cool. That's all.
There you go.
That's because you're cool.
But you know what? I feel I'm in good company.
That's right.
So that's a good thing.
That's
Yeah.
right.
He's a smart man.
There you go. There you go.
Yep.
Where else can you have these lovely artistic ladies surrounding you, right?
Yeah. No, I truly do enjoy it.
Yeah.
To Beth, first of all.
Yes, sir.
I mean, I look at effort. I look at dedication. I look at consistency, and I see all those in you and your work.
Thank you.
And being an artist is not an easy thing.
It's not.
I mean, I tell you what, sometimes 90% of the time to create some art, it's all up here.
Yep.
just thinking about it and composing without even touching a brush, without touching a canvas.
Yep.
It's all up here. And I see that in your work. And I admire that in artists. I admire the fact that you're also very proud of your heritage and you're not afraid to represent yourself. And I think that's a beautiful thing. I also admire, and I tell this to a lot of young artists, you got to explore.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to try this.
Yes.
Fine, you tried it. That may not be your niche. You got to try this other thing and try this. And eventually something's going to pop in your mind and says, you know what? This is what I'm going to continue doing. This is it. And I see that in this presentation as well, how you explored different avenues, different techniques, different products. I mean, a doll is a doll in comparison to a painting. They're not the same. They're just not the same. So the fact that you explore, I think is a beautiful thing. And that's something I recommend to all these young artists that really haven't discovered themselves yet. And in discovering yourself, you don't know when it's going to happen. You
Right.
just don't. You can't say, you know, this is it. I'm going to do it tomorrow. It doesn't work that way.
Not
Because
even.
really the true discovery comes when other people recognize, hey, I like that work. You know,
There's something about it that resonates with me, that
Yeah.
connects. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm interested to know about what you have in your background, because that looks like a size of a mural or a huge canvas.
Oh no, actually, it's funny. This is Zoom. You know, Zoom will allow you to upload images and put stuff in the background. So that's what
I
that
got
is.
you. I thought it was like a huge painting in the
We're all
background.
impressed that you could do this.
Well, you know, it's funny that you should mention that, because I've been mulling around. You know, you did your series of the women blues artists.
Yeah.
Okay. I have had this idea for the longest time of a lot of dear departed musicians and artists, people like Aretha Franklin and Prince come to mind immediately. And for some reason, I forgot to put my latest Aretha on this. But oh yeah, she's great. I love it. I love it.
Oh,
That one is done kind of in a Kehinde Wiley style. Yeah, I love his work. I won't even get started on him.
Yeah.
But I've got an idea for some paintings of Prince and of Aretha Franklin that are going to be kind of like what you're seeing in the background. So,
Beautiful.
and they're huge. They're huge.
Do we have
Beautiful,
rain
beautiful.
going in the background?
Oh yeah, that's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun. So that's
That's great.
upcoming.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I have one question. It's a very open-ended question, and there's really no one answer. It's only what you think. So Beth, what do you think is going to happen to us in the future? I mean, look at the world is talking about NFTs and electronic images and all this, when I'm a simple traditional painter. I mean, what do you see is going to happen from your perspective in the future, as far as us that create with our hands and put stuff on walls instead of a screen?
The bottom line, I think, is that we're always going to be doing what we do, if that makes sense. It's not always about, okay, I want to say this. To a degree, we're going to have to jump on board with technology.
I agree.
But we're not going to necessarily allow it to dictate our identity as artists and who we are and how we work, because there's always going to be a market for it. There's always going to be someone out there who's going to appreciate it and will be willing to buy it, you know?
Yeah.
You don't put on who you are in order to just jump on board with what all's out there. I can't really see myself doing that. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. I'm going to be who I am as an artist, as You know what I'm saying? That's,
Yeah.
yeah. Does that make sense to you? Does that?
It does make sense. My
Would-
look into this is a little different. I feel times are always going to change.
Yeah,
We're living a current time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is what's happening right now.
Yeah.
I call that the train. The train is going to make one stop here. And I have a choice of getting on or not getting on. I'm going to get on and
Yeah, get
explore.
No, get on.
Because I have to, because if I don't, what's going to happen is all this is going to explode and I'm going to say, I just missed the train. You
And
know what I
you're
mean?
gonna learn a ton of stuff on the train.
Well,
Yeah.
that's it. You can take technology. I don't know if any of you saw the exhibit from the very famous Japanese muralist, which was at the Kendall. No, it was at the Fine Art Contemporary Museum in Fort Worth. And he did murals, he did paintings, he did dolls and sculptures.
Yeah. A couple of summers ago. Oh yeah, his dolls
It
were
was
awesome.
pre-COVID. And
Yeah.
what I did is I spent some time looking at his video. And what that man does is he creates everything on the computer and prints it and then turns it over his minions to create it. So he's blending technology with art, but he's not letting one dominate the other. He's letting the human take his designs and put that emotion and that passion into the
Well, I think
painting.
that's what Kahinde does with the backgrounds of his paintings too.
Yeah.
Because I had read somewhere that he and his partner would go to China and work with some school where the people where the background, all those intricate background images were painted on by interns.
Yeah.
So, you know.
It's just going to make us faster at what we do. We're going to create the same thing, but we're going to create it more quickly.
And it's going to have a broader scope, a broader range.
Yeah.
That's what's so exciting about it. You can, I mean, look at us now. We could like really technically have people from, Uzbekistan buying our work.
Well, the culture has become global, and I think that's the important thing that technology and social media allows. That we could be talking here, but in time we could be talking to someone in Africa or Asia or Timbuktu.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of that going on. I mean, there's a lot of and I think you all know Felt and some of the older apps for older artists. I mean, they pull in people from everywhere around the world, and it's just really interesting to see how we all have that same pattern of creativity and passion and exposure. And then, you talk about it and you realize, oh, we're really not so unique. We're unique in how we express our inner creativity, but as humans, we're kind of all the same.
Yes, I agree.
I've always tried to look at, the positive aspects. And I think it's going to be that the world is going to be a lot smaller in terms of, in terms of communication, in terms of, it's going to be a real benefit of real boondocks artists.
Yeah.
I really believe that.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah. Was it Oz's? Oh, Huxley, you said it's a brave new world. It's a brave new world.
It's a brave new world. We're in it, dude.
We're
living
it.
We're living it. We're living it.
Sure. Linda, do you have anything else to say to the group?
No, I just am very interested, very interested in, especially I love the small pieces you're doing, and I am in the process of doing, and it's funny because the one says truth, and I'm in the process of doing something similar. Of course, it's going to look different than yours, of course, but around truth and how, and the growth we've experienced and the honesty we've had to have with ourselves over this past year.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, I'm still doing quite a bit of my photography, but it's I got to looking at Beth's pieces on Facebook, and I was just going, wow, that speaks to me. She's thinking, there's probably some of the same things going through her head as well as mine. And that was kind of neat. I felt like I knew you.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Sisters come together.
Dude, that's what this is about. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, I know I connected with you with the quilt, being an old quilter. And we've talked about this, how stitchery, it really, it's ultimately a woman's art, and it's been a communicative form of art for women from the beginning of time.
Mhm.
And through that, I think we have learned to explore the techniques of art, because you start out with such a simple fiber. You learn to make that fiber, and then that fiber makes dyes, and then you can paint and do all this other stuff come together. So for me, from a feminist standpoint of view, I think the future is going to allow women to become much stronger in who they are as female artists and integrate into the world of art. And I think that's a good thing. And
Yep.
Linda, don't stop doing your photography, because it's absolutely brilliant.
No, I know that's my.
Girl, you have that color, you have that eye. It's just gorgeous. She did a
That's
series.
my. It's so funny because my artwork is very painting and all that is very bright.
Mhm.
But when I go to my photography, that is my happy space. That's my peaceful.
Yeah.
And you can see the difference in the work. It's crazy that I had those two different sides.
Yep. She did a whole series about rural Iowa. What for me personally brought back so many memories of my family's ranch and farms, but you did it in such a gentle, provocative way. I mean, it was just exquisite. So yeah.
Thanks.
Oh, wow.
Okay. I've tooted everybody's horn. Jose, do we toot yours too? Susan, do we toot yours?
No. I want to
disappeared.
see you guys' name, because if I'm not following you guys, Linda and Beth, I'm following Michelle for sure, and everyone else. But I'm gonna find you on Instagram, and if I'm not following you guys, I'm gonna start following you guys. I was writing down the names
all the time. That's how I found out about the underground chocolate thing. Chocolate Mart.
Yeah.
Underground
If
chocolate.
I wasn't going to
Mart.
be in LA, I'd be
With
right
that.
there hanging out with you.
Yeah.
This is the first time I've been to this series, and I just love it.
Good.
And I think, Michelle, you do an awesome job
Thank you, Linda.
at this, and it was so good to see Beth's work, and I'm excited to attend more.
Good. Well, we plan
Thank you.
to. We've got. Well, Terry Cockerham.
Oh, very well. Yeah.
Yeah, and we're going to do a series of photos, his women's series, and then
Yeah.
we'll hope to progress on with Terry. But yeah, I mean, as I said, I'm booking for September, October, and November.
Yeah.
And Susan and I have decided one a month. It's about all we can handle.
Yeah.
Just because we really want the participating artists to really explore and share their warmth and their talent in their profession. And then to have the art talks, because a lot of times we see things, but we need to talk about it too. So
Yeah.
I think that's what's, a very organic, comfortable conversation. And appreciated what Susan has done, and Jose and Beth, and now you can participate with us, Linda, and we'll be happy campers.
Okay.
All right. Well, again, thanks everybody. And it's time to end. And again, I thank Susan for stepping in for Madhu tonight and being one of our co-producers. Now, what will happen with this recording is that we will send it over to Emily, and she will edit it. And then in about 2 weeks, it will go up on our YouTube site. So you'll have the ability to go and look at it. So I'm going to end, and I'm going to say again, thank you so much for coming in. Jose, don't get lost in the underground.
I won't.
And thank you all so much again for this
thank you, Beth.
opportunity. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
It's been glorious. Thank you. And Linda, thank you so
Nice
much
meeting
for
you,
joining.
Linda.
Okay.
Yes, you too, Beth. Great. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you so much.
We
Thanks,
love
Susan.
you. We know you're not here, but we love you. She loved Beth's work, so this is great.
Yeah.
Hopefully next time you'll all be on. All right, everybody have a good week.
Thank
and
you.
we'll
You
see
too.
You all the
Bye.
best.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.